Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up with Conspicuous. Today I am joined by the lovely Jamie Marshall, who will be talking to us all about his businesses, tech, and everything like that. So, Jamie, if people were to ask you who you are, where you've come from, and what you do, what is it for those that don't know?
Hi, I'm Jamie. So kind of my background or where I came from, I guess it's a good place to start.
Yeah,
Left school and went to work for an MSP, and then grew into owning an MSP, which is Everon. And then since then, we've kind of transitioned to be a more modern IT partner. So we do Dynamics, Power Apps, and some of the extra bits. So I guess over the course of the last 15 to 18 years, I think it's been, what I do or what we're doing has changed quite a bit, as I'm sure it has in a lot of different tech industries. So I think Everon was the founding company, and at Everon, we are a managed IT company at heart, but we try and have a bit of a skew to delivering business improvement services and added value that way. So one of the things that we try and do with clients is
yeah.
give them back 30% of time in the first year that they work with us. So we're not just kind of keeping the lights on
Oh,
like a traditional IT company would.
So, as we've sort of spoken before, there isn't that many IT consultancies out there nowadays that sort of still have that element to them as well. And I know that everyone is obviously highly focused on that. And then obviously, I know that you've also switched to the Dynamics 365 cloud. Is that the correct name for it now?
That's the name. Yes, yeah. So
Yeah,
we have this kind of continual improvement ethos running through everything we do. And obviously, being a Microsoft house, we kind of have clients that started with a Power BI, Power Automate, and the Power App sort of world. The next kind of logical step in our mind in the Microsoft ecosystem is Dynamics and Field Service, Business Central, all those kind of apps. So we tried to find a company in the last 18 months that could help partner with us on the Dynamics projects. To cut a really long story short, couldn't really find a partner would cater for our client base.
yeah.
So in the end, last year, we're about 10 months in now, we created our own company called Dynamics 365 Cloud, which hopefully caters for this market that I think is underserved at the minute by Dynamics agencies and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So, just going back to the start of your career, obviously you said that you started it as soon as you finished school, within this IT consultancy. So did you start as like a support consultant? Like what was that journey to a CEO?
So I actually started while I was doing my A levels, working on Saturdays and 2 half days a week I had for a company that was literally around the corner from my sixth form college. And at the time, it was kind of B2C stuff, so it was people's home computers and things like that, home problems. But the company did have another side to the business, which was the B2B and the more traditional MSP stuff. So I kind of got an understanding of what it would be like. Decided I didn't want to go to university, so the minute I finished my A levels, I went full time with that company, and I kind of split my time initially between the home kind of B2C stuff in the shop front, and then also learning the kind of more managed IT kind of route. Um, I also did a Cisco CCNA alongside, so like at an evening school, and learned a bit about
Yeah,
networking and that kind of stuff as well. And then essentially, we um, we kind of grew to a point where we were doing a lot of the work. So myself and my current business partner, this is because he followed the same sort of platform. We were doing a lot of work for this company and taking the lead on a lot of things. So we were already halfway to running an IT company, even though we were just working for someone.
yeah,
So at that point, we kind of had the conversation with our current boss, who was, to be fair, at the other end of his working life, he was kind of dialing back. And
yeah.
that's how everyone was then born. And from there, we kind of kicked on really and just sort of niched down. We dropped the B2C stuff. We went B2B, we focused on regulated industries. And I guess at that point, alongside being on the tools, as it were, we had to start learning some of the accountancy based bits, the marketing, and all the other stuff that comes in hand, paying taxes and that sort of stuff. We've run in a business.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really say there was any kind of stepping point that changed. I think it was just a constant transition to
Yeah.
the point where you were already kind of wearing some of those hats, but without the title in effect.
Yeah, just like that natural sort of path that it led to, which is nice. And as you said, when you're running a business with your co-founder as well, like you do end up having to wear so many hats. Like, I don't know, for you, was there like one part of it that was the hardest of like transitioning to that part? What hat was
Um,
the worst?
People, I think, being technical or from a technical background and role, the whole managing of people was the thing we struggled most with. You just, or I assumed that people would always be motivated by similar things to me, and that we'd be all in alignment. What mattered to me and why I came to work would be the same as person X or person Y. And I think it was naive and probably the wrong mentality to have in the early days. So we kind of, I won't say struggled, but it was hard to grow the team because we kind of weren't all aligned and we didn't have a strong culture. So that was probably the biggest challenge and the thing we had to learn. We've since then, over the last few years, employed a operations manager who actually manages the team. And when we recruited for him, we actually picked qualities that were the exact opposite from us. So
Oh
hopefully
wow.
between him and us, we have a better balance. Like, he's so people centric. He's never worked in tech prior to working for us, so he's not technical, although he's getting a little bit technical now,
Yeah.
but it's not his natural fit. So we should have a much better balance now than I think we did originally.
Yeah, that's a really interesting outlook actually, with the whole like getting someone completely opposite in. I think, as you said, like you've got to sort of look when you've got a business, you've got to look at every single aspect, and that's even from like the differences in personalities, because working with humans, as we all know, is difficult because no one's the same, which is also the beauty of it. So that yeah, I can imagine that's been the hardest. And what would you say has been like the most rewarding part of it all so far? Because I know there's lots to come, but so far, what's the most rewarding part?
I'd say because we like fixing problems, generally when you can see a change that you've made in a client's business, or you can actually see something from start to finish and the impact it's made and how it's affected their people or their business, that's constantly rewarding. And that's something
Yeah.
that's really, I guess, like a motivation for me personally, is like that's something I really enjoy seeing. And then I think from a business perspective, seeing the team grow and like, so a lot of the guys we have started as apprentices and kind of gone up. So seeing them like get houses or learn to drive or kind of just grow a little bit and be more confident and take more things on is pretty rewarding as well.
Yeah, really good points, actually. Really good points. And for you as a co-founder, you're quite hands-on still, aren't you?
Yeah, so in terms of the technical day-to-day stuff, I try and step back. So I don't really do so much of that anymore. But in terms
Yeah.
of business development, meeting with clients for sort of reviews and new prospect meetings, that's kind of, yeah, my wheelhouse at the minute. So I think I've probably got a unique standpoint within the team here that being a business owner, I can relate to clients and their business pains and problems. But
Yeah.
having a technical background, I can kind of blend those two worlds together, where I think as technical people we sometimes struggle if we can only see the black and white technical solution and not how it fits in the real world. So I think right now I've got a unique advantage in the fact that I straddle those two. So yeah, we're sort of using that to our kind of benefit if we can right now.
Absolutely. No, that completely makes sense. And obviously, I know the main point we sort of made at the start was how you've always kept up to date, moved, can't even talk then, moved with the times. And obviously now that's why you've sort of taken that new leap into the Dynamics 365 world, just because that's where a lot of things are going, especially with power platform, AI, automation, etc. For you, how have you kept up to date with all of this? Like, what's allowed you to move in this direction?
So I think at heart the value of being having continual improvement as an ethos, both for the service we provide, but internally. it's given us the appetite to go out and keep learning things. I think again, being kind of techies, we love new tech and we love shiny things, so that again helps on that front. And we kind of see not being able to stand still in our industry, like with the cloud and all the services moving to the cloud. There's going to be less requirements for traditional IT support and traditional managed IT companies. So it's a case of adapt or fizzle out. In effect, is kind of how we see it. So we have a good balance. My co-founder is still super technical, and he really loves all that sort of stuff. So what tends to happen is he will be wanting to continuously learn and digest all this new technology and these new feature sets. He'll in turn be sort of telling me about all these great things coming, and then when I'm hearing about business pains or problems, we'll kind of marry the two up. And essentially that's how the Dynamics company came about. We had a client, or a prospect, sorry, they weren't actually a client at the time, who had been around all these different off-the-shelf softwares and wanted to find something that would fit them perfectly, but couldn't do it. I think they'd been for about 15 different pieces of software and they just couldn't find anything that worked. And we started looking, or my business partner Stuart started looking at the Dynamics world and that kind of stuff. So it was then a case of, right, well, this might be a good fit. Let's learn it together. And we were super transparent with the prospect at the time. This is the first time we're doing it. We think this is a perfect fit for you, but we might have to get some people in to help deliver it, because at the time we couldn't deliver it internally. So I just think being willing and having the desire to keep moving forward is probably the main thing to keep
Absolutely.
you moving.
Yeah, and the fact that you're so honest and transparent with your client base or prospective clients as well, I think that's such a key thing. As you said, everyone's got to start somewhere, and if you've now found, would you say that the Dynamics 365 solutions are where most businesses are going at the moment? Would you say it's probably the most popular in terms of technology?
I'd say that, yeah, in terms of where we're heading as an industry, our view is that everybody will be using an ERP, a dynamic style platform, in the next sort of 5-6 years. I think if you were to start a business up from scratch now, you would no longer go down that route of having different systems and siloed data, and you'd instead take a system that was all encompassing. I think bear in mind, we've probably only been doing it about 10 months. I don't think when we've presented it as an option to clients, I don't think anybody has said no and turned it down. We've had 100% take up and everything so far. So I think the appetite's definitely there with clients. They're aware of the pains and the problems they have. I just don't think they're aware of what the solution is.
Absolutely. No, that's completely fair enough. And as we've said before, it's where it's becoming such a big thing, the Power Platform, AI, etc. I think a lot of external people who aren't tech focused, even if you are just a business owner, now knows of it or knows something about it. Because would you say like one of the technologies that has sort of caught your eye that really made that transition into D365 quite clear, was that the Power Platform side of things, would you say?
Yeah, because I think it's almost like a baby stepping stone into that world. So you've removed the constraint of buying something off the shelf that is predetermined how it works, and you fit around it to going into the Power App world or the Power Platform world, where if you can understand your workflow and you've got defined workflow, you can design something to fit it perfectly. So I think that is the ethos of kind of what you'd lead into with Dynamics. And I think it also it sets the mindset of you can live your data in this big one kind of dataverse, and then you can interact with it in different ways. So it doesn't matter like what you want it to do or how you want it to manipulate it. The data can be used in almost different skins with Power Apps or some of the even kind of Teams-based apps and stuff like that. So yeah, it sets you in the right mindset to adopt a dynamic style product.
Absolutely. And I know we've sort of spoke about bridging that gap with this new technology of Dynamics and Power Apps. I know, as you mentioned about that first prospective client, you sort of had to, what's the word for it? You sort of developed the field service side of things, didn't you, to fit that specific client, obviously off the back of less knowledge than your previous expertise. So how did you actually find that, like having to fit the gap?
So we sort of went in, and again, like I mentioned earlier, because I can relate to some business pains and I have some technical understanding, we were able to kind of create a brief of what the problem was at heart, and what we were trying to solve was pretty accurate from day one. So we then explored some of the apps that the client had already looked at and could work out what the pros and cons with those were. And then because we were learning about dynamics at the same time, we basically went in and demoed just a demo of, like, not field service kind of tailored, but just a demo of dynamics, and showed the vision of how you could tweak this and how you could skin it and how it could be manipulated to fit their needs. So that was kind of the starting point. And then from there, essentially, like you mentioned, we didn't have the capacity in house to do it. We looked for dynamics partners, essentially, that we could put in front of the client. They would have a relationship that we would just oversee it and make sure the pains and problems are resolved. But what we found was that we either had companies that would want a massive big bang project and to deliver everything in one hit, for more outlay than the clients were willing to spend at the time.
Yeah.
Or we found a company called Bamboom, which people might be aware of. I think they've now been acquired by Pax8, who had a like kickstart package and then essentially bolt-ons. So you could kind of trial dynamics baby steps, and you'd add these bolt-ons as you grew. The problem was these bolt-ons didn't quite fit the brief, and especially for field service, we really struggled to find people in field service specifically that would cater for this market. And then it got to a point of, well, if we can't find anyone to do it, again, we were fully transparent about the client. We want to deliver this for you. If you're happy to be the first person, we'll create something, we'll do it in-house. And essentially that's then became Dynamics 365 Cloud. It's a weird thing because you find people that do Business Central for that market and things like that, but for the more niche apps, project operations is another one we've started looking at, or we're in part way speaking to a prospect about. But it's hard to find somebody who'll deal with kind of the smaller businesses with lesser budgets in those more niche areas. So hopefully Dynamics 365 Cloud can bridge that gap essentially, and will deliver a kind of a version 1, which is just your MVP, your minimum viable product, but then we'll deliver continual improvement kind of package around that to constantly refine it and update it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know from being in and amongst the D365 world, like you're right, field service is probably one of the more niche areas that people specialize in or have experience in. And as you said, there's not loads and loads of businesses compared to like sales and customer service, etc., that end up wanting field service. So I mean, you got chucked in at the straight away if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
So that's always a bonus. And I know you mentioned how obviously you've got the larger Microsoft partners that sort of want to go in, one hit, get it done. From your perspective, do you feel like the going in and sort of adding on from there and continual improvement is the better way to do it? I'm sure there's pros and cons for both, but what's your views on that?
For our client base and our traditional client base size and their budgets, yeah, because I think especially when you want someone to step into that world, it's a harder ask for asking someone to spend £100,000 plus to back a project that might last 12 months or however long to deliver it in one hit. Whereas I think if you can deliver it in a small, manageable chunk, and then by their engagement with, look how much time has this saved you, look at the pain it's resolved, you bind them into understanding what it can do. And then the path you might take for continual improvement might be slightly different to what they would have decided prior to seeing the project. And I think that's what we're finding is once people start on this, it's the same with the Power App stuff, is once you've delivered the first Power App or the first kind of piece, it changes the way people think. And then they're more open to bringing stuff to the table and suggesting what they want. Whereas prior to that first one, I think people don't quite know what's possible still, and they probably don't then get the same outputs as a result.
Yeah, I do get what you mean with that. And with yourself and where Dynamics 365 Cloud is going, just for those that don't know, are you going to focus across the whole tech stack, so CE, FOBC, or are you going to be more customer engagement focused with Power Platform, or where do you reckon you'll go?
With the dynamic side of stuff, so we're still kind of feeling it out, really, I'd say. We kind of just market to existing clients of Everon so far, other than a few kind of prospects that have popped up. So we'd probably be led by what they're asking for rather than by us dictating this is a path we're going to go down. I think the key for us is we want to make dynamics obtainable for everybody and not necessarily have to go down this big bang approach. So if you want the big bang approach and you want an all-in-one project delivery, we're probably not the right company for you. But if you kind of want to not experiment, but if you want to take it slowly and step by step, then we will try and work with you, regardless of which kind of platform you're looking at, I think.
Absolutely. I know, like, I feel like with that approach as well, you probably have more chance of building that partnership and relationship as well, because you're with them every step of the way. And I feel like they'll probably remember you more. So once maybe you are at the end of it, if in a couple of years down the line, they end up going, actually, we need to enhance this or whatever it may be, they'll be like, oh, Jamie Marshall, let's get him on the phone. So I think that is quite a nice approach. But as you said, obviously, it is tailored to your type of clients, and what fits one won't fit another. But I do think one of the main perks is probably that relationship building, especially as you said, you've got your clients from Everon, and now they're still putting their trust in you, clearly because you've got that good partnership with them and relationship already there, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. I think our entire industry now is built on trust and authority. I think nobody wins a client or an opportunity on one meeting or a website visit or things like that. I think you literally have to have that trust for somebody to give you that kind of that opportunity. IT or technology is so integral to a business that if you're not the right partner or you don't do the right job, it can really hurt a business. So I think people are cautious when deciding who they work with, and it's all based on that relationship. One of the things we're actually doing at the minute is Pax8, who I mentioned earlier, one of our partners for Everon. We're actually getting Dynamics 365 Cloud onto their matchmaker scheme. So when their other Pax8 clients need Dynamics partners, especially in the field service and the more niche bits that we've already had a track record with, Dynamics 365 Cloud might work with those other IT companies through the Pax8 matchmaker stuff. So we're trying to kind of market it fully on relationships and building those partnerships, those referral kind of networks and that sort of stuff to grow it.
Yeah, I mean, that's great you've got them behind you as well, because I know that they are a very well established, great company as well. So the fact that you've got their trust as well, because that's another thing. People aren't going to refer you if they think that you're not going to deliver. So, even outside of just your client base, in the Microsoft network and community, people want to have that trusting relationship with you as an individual as well, because they're not going to refer your services otherwise. So completely get that. Now, one thing I did obviously want to ask is, with those consultants that work with you through Everon, etc., if they end up helping on a Dynamics project, do you guys offer them, do you guys go through like certifications for Dynamics, or how do you keep their learning up to date as well?
At the minute, the Everon guys are separate to the Dynamics stuff.
Okay.
There will be potential in the future when the Dynamics Cloud gets a bit more mature that we can have some changeover. So if people want to migrate into that, we can do that. But right now, the two are separate teams. In terms of improvement and learning and that sort of stuff, every staff member of Viva has like a continual learning improvement plan. So you get a dedicated half day a month company time, you get personal goals that are aligned to company goals, and then Everon or Dynamics Cloud will fund any of your certs. We encourage people to start with the Microsoft stuff and get the kind of base fundamental Microsoft certifications. And then from there, you're probably aware there's tons and tons of different paths you can
Yeah.
take. We allow people the choice to niche down as long as it aligns with one of the company goals or the services we deliver. We'll back people and fund the courses and the learning.
That's so, so important, I think, especially just having a half a day in a month. People might be like, oh, but people don't even offer that. And I think that half a day is so crucial because we always refer back to this, but IT is never going to stop evolving. So if you don't have the time, and some companies still expect their employees to learn on top of the hours that they're already putting into work. So it can sort of consume your lifestyle. I mean, I speak to consultants still that end up having to work continuous weekends back to back. And of course, I appreciate there may be projects that you may need to do the odd Saturday just to get things over the line with deadlines. But people are still working 7 days a week constantly within the IT space. And you do think it's so consuming that sometimes that half a day just to actually reset, be able to see where you need to up your learning is so important.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think one of the downsides of technology is the fact you can never disconnect from it sometimes. So we do try and I think like give time and try and not set things to happen out of hours. So if there is a problem, we're not on the phone ringing people, we're not teamsing people, we're not emailing outside of business hours, even if it's staff and stuff like that. So I think it's something we can definitely do more with, and we should do more with in the future. One of the things we're actually doing on the Power App side is developing a suite of culture apps at the minute. So like an employee recognition app where people can give praise and rewards. One for mental health where you can kind of report back feeling, you can ask for support and that sort of stuff. So we're hopefully in the next 6 months they'll be finished and we'll have rolled those out to internal staff and actually Everon clients as well.
I think that's so cool as well because you're still learning about this area of tech and being able to actually be like, we're going to implement it in our own business and try and develop these apps. One, I think it's really interesting that you can even make an app to do with that nowadays. Still baffles me, but it's nice that you're also going to be using it internally. People are also going to see the benefits of it as well. But as you said, also as time goes on, you're going to learn new things about what's best to give back to your employees as well. Happier staff, the better they work, isn't it? But there is so much to consider, and I take my hats off to any business owner like yourself and your business partner for being able to get to where you are and even be able to progress into a sort of dual company where you've now got your D365 stuff as well. It's quite admirable. And one thing I will ask, and it's a bit of a cheeky question, but obviously business partners, sometimes you hear some scary stories, friends going into business and stuff, but how have you found it? Because most people want to set up by themselves, but I bet it's quite nice having, hopefully it's been quite smooth sailing, but how have you found it having a business partner as such?
Yeah, so as I said, we actually worked together in the company prior to Everon, so we kind of knew each other. But the weird thing was we wouldn't really ever speak outside of work. So we talk about work things, but we weren't that similar. So we never really, I guess I'd have just said he was a work colleague. I would never have said he was a friend or anything like that. And then I guess because of the shared experience we'd had, we decided to go into obviously a partnership. And then from there, I'd say like the bond's just gone so much stronger because we have shared trauma. Like with the highs and lows, like we experience them at the same time and stuff like that. I don't think I would choose to do business or be in business with friends or family. I think that would be a line that you couldn't stop at the end of the day when you went home. And I do know people that have done it, so it obviously does work, but I just find it hard to switch off and not carry those conversations on. But at the same time, I don't think I would want to do what we've done by myself. I think you've always got someone to moan with or to cry with or to laugh with, whatever it might be. So I think that's been a massive benefit. And then I'd also say that because we are quite different, and he loves the detail and the tech and just can learn things, like he's more academically bright than me, so he can learn, he can read something and he can learn it. I have to physically do something to learn it.
Yeah.
So I think that's like really worked in our favor, because he probably wouldn't get on a podcast and do stuff like this, but I'm more natural. I'm not saying I'm great at it, but I'm more natural than he is. So
You're doing
I've
good.
kind of landed this sort of stuff, and then he'll do the kind of technical bits and learning of the new technologies. This is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So as we've grown and matured, the two complement each other, and we won't be as complete if it was just one or the other doing it, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't think of anything worse than running my own business by myself. But I think you've touched on a really good point that as one person, you can only give one side to things, and it's the things that you're good at or that you know. Whereas if you've got another person, obviously, as you said, with yours, it's that you're quite different. I think it can just add that other perspective. And as you said, when the times are tough, the times are tough, and going through that by yourself can hit quite hard. But when you've got something that's really good to celebrate, you don't want to just be by yourself at a little party. It is, shared experiences I think are really good. So it's nice you guys have sort of managed to use everything that you've been through from start to finish to get to where you are today. And yeah, it's so interesting. And you talk to so many different people that have been on their different career paths. So I always find it nice to know, how you got from A to B, etc. And I think for yourself, having that holistic view to tech, that it isn't just going to be managed services, etc. There are other technologies, and moving with the times is going to be so crucial to success. And hey, you're doing it, you're in and amongst it, you're now growing. I'm sure you've got lots of exciting things coming up in the pipeline as well. I know one thing that you are going to is the Pax8 Beyond this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, so is it October time in Berlin? So again, we're trying to work quite closely with Pax8, especially on the dynamic side of stuff at the minute. I mentioned about the matchmaker program. So just to kind of solidify what we're doing and build that relationship more, we're going to the Pax8 Berlin, where hopefully we'll kind of meet with some other partners. The program's going to progress a little bit, and yeah, we can become kind of one of the trusted advisors for field service and some of the bits that we're doing. So yeah, that's more and more of that sort of stuff we're doing at the moment.
That'll be really exciting, and there is so much you can get involved in within that community as well. So I'm sure the years ahead of you are going to be quite busy. You'll probably get to see new places and go to all those conferences, etc., which will be really, really good. That's the fun part of the job, when you just get to meet other people in the same boat. So
no, definitely absolutely looking forward to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it'll be good. Now, I know another thing to mention is, obviously, is this your first podcast that you've done?
No, so I've done a few already.
Done a few.
Probably 10th, maybe.
God, you're a pro now. But you're launching your own one as well soon, aren't you?
Yeah, so again, that whole trust piece we talked about, and just being able to get in front of people. Podcasts are a great way to do that, as I guess you've kind of clocked onto already with this. So we're launching our own podcast. It's called The Tech Remedy. And essentially it is interviewing people who either work in tech or use tech in a particular way in their business to address a pain. So the first episode's been filmed, I think, the 13th of August. So probably be publishing them early September. And the idea is that people can listen to it and identify a pain that might relate to them or their business, and understand how technology could be applied to fix it, or how people have applied technology to fix it. So a few of the guests we've got a user experience company going to talk about UX and customer experience. A Salesforce. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention that on a Dynamics podcast, but we've got a Salesforce kind of agency owner talking about Salesforce and some of the stuff they do. There's kind of a whole mix of things that we're going through, but ultimately it should always tie back to a business pain or problem and how technology can be utilized to to solve it. So yeah, that's going to be super exciting, I think.
Yeah, I think lots of people will want to get involved with that as well. And for people that would want to watch that, will you be posting that on like your LinkedIn pages, or will you have YouTube?
Yes, it'll be going LinkedIn, it's going to be video as well as audio. So LinkedIn, YouTube, and then it's on the Spotify and Apple podcast platforms. So as I say, we'll be posting about it on our LinkedIn when it actually goes live. But we're probably about 6 weeks away from the first episodes being published.
Exciting. So many things going on, which is great. So good luck with it all, definitely. And you know, if you ever need any suggestions of people that may want to come on, I'm sure loads of people will want to, which is great. But I know I don't even know what the time is. I'm probably chatting away, so I don't want to keep you too long. But if anyone does have any comments, I know Ellie Timberlake has mentioned that she was saying sometimes coming from the outside tech world can be a winner. She came from a completely different background and loving the new challenge for herself, which is really good. And she also mentioned that playing to everyone's strength is, you know, a great form of teamwork, which completely agree with. But if anyone else does have any comments, please feel free to drop them below to the side of us, but I think it's below for everyone else. And myself or Jamie will be happy to reply back to them, etc. But have you got any sort of parting thoughts at all, Jamie?
No, I don't think so. I guess if you're out there and you want to kind of experiment with something, go and try it. And I think as long as you understand what you're doing and you're willing to learn and go through a bit of pain, then there's so much opportunity out there for everybody in the tech world or using tech that you just need to get stuck in and use it.
I think that's a very good point to end on. So we will leave it there for today. And obviously, thank you so much for being able to speak on the podcast. I hope so many people can see the exciting growth and adventure you've been on as a company. And I think you'll be seeing a lot more of Dynamics 365 Cloud as well in the coming months and years. So keep your eyes peeled. But yeah, we will see everyone next week for another episode. But thank you very much, Jamie, and we'll speak soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me.